Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, wherever you are. We will start in a few minutes as the participants are still joining. Thank you for your patience. Ms. Vilo, shall we start?
Please start. 2 minutes past time here.
Ms. Vilo, shall we start? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, wherever you are. A warm welcome to the AIBD Regional Webinar on Leadership in the Digital Era. This is the second AIBD webinar for 2026. My name is 99A, Program Manager at AIBD. My colleagues and I will be your hosts for today's session. Before we begin, a few housekeeping notes. May I kindly request everyone to keep your microphones muted during the speaker's presentations. Today's webinar will run for around nearly 2 hours from 2 to 4 p.m. Malaysia time. We will have 3 main speaker sessions followed by question and answer and open discussion. For questions, please type them in the chat or raise your hand and we will address them accordingly. All questions are welcome. This is your space to learn and engage with each other. The moderator for today's webinar is our AIBD Secretariat Director and CEO, Ms. Philomena Nana Pragrasam. Ms. Philomena is currently reinvigorating AIBD's mandate as an intergovernmental body focusing on media policies and pressing issues in our region. She is a strong advocate for using new tools and immersive technologies to enhance the continuity, popularity, and relevance of traditional media. She is also championing the importance of spectrum space for sustaining traditional media across the Asia Pacific. We have participants joining us from across the Asia Pacific region and beyond. Thank you all for being here today. Now it's my great honor to invite our moderator, Ms. Philomena, to take the floor. Ms. Philo, over to you.
Thank you very much, Nang Nang, and a very warm welcome to all our participants for today. And I think this is really great talking to all of you, and still not too late to say Happy New Year, Happy 2026, and a year that's bound to be hopefully better than what was last year. But nevertheless, every year presents us with some interesting, what do you call that, surprises. So first, I'd like to warmly welcome our members from over 20 countries who are gathered here today, and also to the speakers who are present. And these are speakers who have made a mark as leaders, right? And they're also people who are driving the leadership agenda these days. So I'd like to introduce them. Our first speaker would be Mr. Rajasingham, co-founder and chief future officer of the BAC Education Group. And he will be speaking on human-centered leadership for digital resilience. We've all been talking about humans and AI and so forth. So this is going to be really an eye-opening talk by Mr. Raja. And the second speaker is, of course, His Excellency Sok Puttiwut. He is the Secretary of State, Ministry of Posts and Telecommunications, Kingdom of Cambodia. And Excellency Sok has presented in various international platforms and leading the change of the internet and all the things that are digital in the Kingdom of Cambodia. And last but not least, we have Ms. L. Kwan. And Elle is head of conferences in Informa Festivals. She's also a producer at Asia Tax Singapore. And not only Singapore, but Elle Kwan also drives AI. So she happens to be holding several positions where AI is considered. And she's also present in Dubai as well as Singapore. So that's Ms. Elle for you. So we're going to listen today to these three great leaders who are driving the force, creating changes, and navigating to the world of AI. So without much ado, I'd like to give the floor to none other than Mr. Rajasingham, Chief Future Officer of the BAC Education Group. He's an educator, he's an entrepreneur, and a founding member of a range of companies specializing in education, corporate training, and also advertising and IT development. Now, I must say that he was also awarded the Gandhi Memorial Trust Award for Public Services 2025, a National Outstanding Educationist Award in 2021 from the Private Education Cooperative of Malaysia. And BAC, under his leadership, has received the ASEAN Business Advisory Council Award for Best in CSR for 6 consecutive years. So a man who walks the talk, and someone from whom we will definitely learn a lot today. So Mr. Rajasingham, I'd like to invite you to share your thoughts on human-centered leadership but digital resilience. So can we have you take? Yes, thank you.
Thanks so much, Ms. Philo. Thanks for the invitation, and I'm probably going to want to share the screen. So I will do that now. I do apologize if I've... Okay.
Okay.
First of all, thanks so much for having me, and I'd like to say hi to all the participants and the other speakers. I'm very happy that get a chance to sort of share some thoughts here. And I've always believed in this whole AI thing that people are the most important aspect, and we shouldn't get too carried away by technology and AI. And so I've actually put together some slides rather quickly, and let me just take you through them. So I'm looking at leading people, purpose, and performance in a world of constant change, because the only thing that's inevitable is we're going to be changing constantly. The pace at which technological change is going to take place is faster than ever before. And the big problem we have is how people are going to stay relevant. So this is the paradox now. Technology is advancing faster than humans can adapt. And right at the beginning, I'd like to say, Darwin put it this way: it is not the strongest nor the most intelligent of species that will survive, but the one most adaptable to change. So technology is going to force people to have to change. And we have to see what we are going to be able to do. So AI, automation, cybersecurity, tools are improving exponentially, but people adoption, trust, and engagement is what's behind. So digital transformation does not fail because of technology, but because people are left behind. And organizations are going to have to do whatever is necessary, especially the leadership, to ensure that their people are not behind. Because if their people are behind and can't keep up with the technological changes, the organization will fall behind and soon will be replaced by some other organization. So the key thing is this: one thing you can do is try to slow things down, but that's not going to work because the technology companies, and there are so many people out there. Every day there's something new that comes out. You've got agentic AI, you've got super intelligent agents, you've got bots that are out there. They can put all the apps together and do your work for you. So people are going to find it harder and harder to stay in touch and keep changing. So this is another aspect to look at. The problem is digital transformation is actually a people challenge. It's not a technology issue, it's a people issue. So we all focus on our AI systems, our platforms, automation. We want this is the latest software, it's the latest technology. But what we should be focusing on is engaging with our people, trying to make sure how our people or staff can stay relevant, make sure they've got the skills, make sure they have that thing, building their trust. Often they are worried, am I going to be replaced by AI? Am I going to lose my job? What's going to happen to me 5 years from now? I mean, look at it. You've got autonomous cars. You've got shops, online, which have taken over. You have now AI suggesting. You've got so even if you go to restaurants, just a QR code, you get the menu and you can order. Not as much need for waiters. Now you have robots coming out to give you your food. All these things are there. So, and a lot of people in a lot of jobs spaces are beginning to worry. We've got robots that can perform surgery better than doctors can. You've got AI, newscasters that can be there. You've got design. I mean, there's everything. I mean, we use tons and tons of tools. But the key thing you must understand is businesses are ultimately about people. And these tools, these technology is there to assist people. But if we don't equip our people and we don't lead the organization into this era, we're actually doing an injustice to our teams. So it's ultimately, to me, it's always about purpose and values. So human-centered leadership, in essence, to me, means this: making people feel valued, making them understand why change is happening, and supporting them through this uncertainty. So you've got to talk to your, whoever your staff, whoever they are, explain to them that this technological revolution, this evolution is taking place, and that we are there with them to help them navigate it and not to be concerned or worried. Because at the end of the day, it's not AI that's going to replace anybody. It is humans using AI replacing humans who don't use it. And our job as leaders, everyone in any organization, and not just, I'm not talking just about the CEO or whatever, at every different level, is to try and make the team be able to adapt to this, to be able to change, to understand it. So to me, it's still about purpose. Every organization has purpose, and that's beyond just your bottom line or your profits. So you have to tell them, like, why do we exist? Why does this company, where we are working, why are we here? Who do we serve? Who our customers are, and what do we stand for? And this benefit of having, that being anchored in purpose is this: even if there's disruption, even there's technical change, they will understand. And purpose makes it such that you will be able to navigate through whatever time, whatever happens. If you're anchored with your purpose is right, then you will be able to get through whatever uncertainty, whatever instability, whatever rapid change, whatever disruption, you will be able to pull through. So that's a key thing. For me, organizations should remember that we are human centered. We are here to serve humans. The machines are there to assist us, and we've got to keep track of that. And we've got to make sure that everyone in our company understands, why are we here? What's our purpose? Because if they're anchored in purpose, everything else becomes quite easy. Values are also the other element. Your companies should have entrenched values: integrity, accountability, professionalism, empathy. Because if your values are clear, everybody will make better decisions, and trust will become institutional. It becomes part of your culture. So this is a key element. So I want to remember, while we're talking about the digital age, I want to remember that ultimately it's all about humans. It's about purpose, about values, and these things that ultimately are going to make your company stronger, and you'll be able to navigate through everything. So this is what, if you got your purpose and values, your organization resilience will be there, and you will be able to go through anything, whatever difficulties that are thrown your way, and your culture becomes your strongest risk management system. At the end of the day, if you build a strong culture, you can go through any tough time, any difficulty. Even if some other company looks like it's coming in, you will be able to pivot. You will be able to stay true to your purpose. So I want you all to understand. I also believe that you always put people first. It's always people first. And the key principle is this: people, your employees, your customers, and your community. So I'm always for the people first. It's not about technology first, it's people. The technology is there to assist. But what you have to make sure is, if you don't get your people to be able to use technology, to be able to leverage technology, then you're really putting them at a disadvantage. So you got to acquire the right talent, you got to continuously develop them and retain them by giving meaning to their work. To sort of say that when they are here, they are doing something that benefits society, that is actually of value. Now, why do people leave organizations? They don't leave because you got AI or technology or automation. So it doesn't mean, oh, now we're going to modernize, we're going to bring in AI, or we're going to use more technology tools, or we're going to automate things. They don't. But they leave because they felt they were left behind. You haven't heard them, you didn't value them, or they have become irrelevant because that technological tool has replaced what they were doing. But this is where I feel it's every employer's job, every leader's job, not to bring in technology and then throw 300 people out of the company or 500 people out of the company, because as an entity, we have to understand we owe a duty to the people. We owe a duty because it's a people first organization. So our job should be to see, how do we educate, how do we upskill, how do we reskill them. So as AI comes in to do certain type of work which may be more manual, more repetitive, and gets rid of a lot of the process driven or systems driven work, we have to see, how do we get our people up the chain, so that the value chain, so that they can still be in the company and still contribute. Maybe you could look at a new business or something else. So great leaders, the idea is to build, you know, make people feel respected, supported, and proud of the impact they create. And of course, technology enables you to do that as well. You can use technology as a tool to create greater impact. We do a lot of this in our social good work. Over the years, we've actually helped over 1 million people through various projects that we've done. But in a lot of the times, those projects have been made possible through the use of technology. We would not have been able to have that reach, that ability without technology. And I'm not talking about the most complex tools, sometimes they are simple tools. So the biggest challenge facing everyone today, and especially people, is how do we continue to stay relevant? In a world where new tools come in on a daily basis, new things to increase productivity, to increase your ability to do things, how do we stay relevant? Because that's what Darwin talked about. It's not the strongest, but the one most adaptable to change. So if you don't stay relevant, then what happens is what happened to companies like Nokia or Blockbuster or Kodak. At one point, all the biggest company in their space, but they did not see how to stay relevant. And this is the big problem. Leaders are going to have to constantly ask themselves, even if your company is 100 years old or 50 years old or 30 years old, how do you make sure that the company will stay relevant? So you're the custodians of relevance, and your job is to try to make sure, how can I use technology, to help my people on this journey, that they are constantly be relevant. Because the moment you fall asleep in today's world, your company could be gone. You could be replaced, and your competition can come from places where you would never thought they would come from. I mean, look at the biggest music company now with people like Apple with their iTunes or Spotify, not a recording label. If you look at it, you look at Uber. It's an app that suddenly goes into the transport department and takes over transportation. If you look at so many areas, whether you're Netflix, your structures, they are so different in where people were not even in that space suddenly come in. So your competition can come from anywhere. So you've also got to start looking at how do I collaborate rather than compete. So building learning organizations. So when we talk about human-centered leadership, a very key element is how are you going to ensure as a leader that your people are constantly trained in what you have as a learning organization, continuous upskilling and reskilling, because it's not like the old days you study something and then for 30, 40 years, there's hardly any change. There's going to be constant change these days. How do you encourage curiosity? How do you get your staff to learn that, no, don't be afraid. Try it. If you fail, fine. You learn from your failures. Because if you never fail, you will never, that means you're not challenging yourself. So you've got to have lifelong learning embedded into their daily work. You've got to challenge your team to try new tools, to try new things, but not instead of saying, oh, I don't want to touch this, or find reasons like, oh, I don't believe in AI, or I don't believe in using technology tools, or I want to do this because it's the way it should be done. Those who don't embrace technology, embrace AI, and do what is necessary in order to stay relevant, well, they don't have to embrace it at home, but in their office space, they have to look at it. I mean, of course, there are environmental issues, the amount of power used, the amount of, the damage that is there. And of course, a lot of these companies are trying to do whatever to be carbon neutral or to offset what they're doing damage. But the key thing is we can't sort of just sit there and say, well, it's doing this, so I'm not touching it, because you will find that you will have difficulties. So learning beyond technical skills. So leaders, if you're a leader in a company and you're looking, you got to see how do you grow your team's technical skills, their professional capabilities, helping them with their personal growth, and also leadership maturity. So help them grow. Help them grow not just in very technical use of things, but help them grow their professional capabilities, their personal growth, the whole works. And to me, the future is also all about competencies. You need to build competencies. So in the old day, you'd have you go study, you got a degree or you got a professional qualification, you go apply for a job, you get that job, and so on. That's fine. And today, I mean, I run 7 educational institutions, including a tech university, a media university, college, the largest law school in the country, and a whole bunch of institutions. But what I tell them to do is we take the degrees, but we are focusing very much on building them the right competencies and the ability to constantly acquire through what I call fast track skill acquisition tactics. So they can learn new skills very rapidly. And I think that's very important because today you're not going to study everything you need in your degree or your professional qualification. You're going to have to constantly adapt, change, learn new things. And the biggest skill we teach people today is fast track skill acquisition and the ability to pick up new competencies whenever they notice a skills gap. Well, these are my current skills, but for this job or the company I'm at or the work I'm doing, I need these skills. How can I rapidly acquire those skills? For organizations, of course, they could go out and hire people with those skills, but no, those skills become and things they can use will become outdated sometimes fairly quickly. So these are some of the critical competencies that leaders have to build today. Leadership to me is still the strongest skill. Leadership and the ability to make decisions. Of course, you've got technological literacy, cybersecurity awareness, data literacy, the ability to collaborate. We should move out of a competitive type approach to a collaboration mindset where we are collaborating to encourage people within your organization to collaborate and also to collaborate with other organizations because that's where we really can build strengths. And you start investing in people early and you prepare for disruption before it hits. It's those who wait until they are so whacked out of shape and then decide to try and do something, it'll be too late. So you got to and this is a challenge even in my organization. Not everybody wants to hop on board with things. We run public programs. We run on programs on like now we do things like Gen AI on digital marketing or using AI to increase productivity, design thinking skills. So we actually have a training and we run every week. They also have a work-based type, course that even covering things like mental health, health themselves, health itself, those kind of things. But not everybody wants to get on board. You will always have the one thing about people is it's our nature sometimes to resist change. And change is often looked at something bad. I've been doing this for 30 years. Don't tell me now I've got to change. So you need to sort of get these people on board, explain to them why they need to change, why we need to do this. And often you're not doing it just for your organization, you're doing it for them. If for some reason they're thrown out of the job market or they retire or whatever it is, they reach 60 and they go out. Having the skill sets, the ability to leverage technology, all of this will actually help them ensure that they are relevant throughout their lives and they can work well beyond retirement, or even if they move to another organization, or it makes them more marketable, more employable. I always believe you should make your staff so good that everybody wants them. I find it sometimes odd that there are people out there that when we've done training where we actually said things like, oh, if we train our staff and they become very good, then others will hire them. So I said, so you want to have people who are not competent working with you. You rather that nobody wants them. So it's hard to understand the rationale of certain types of leaders in organizations who actually feel better that way. Emotional demands of okay, this is we look at empathy is another key thing. Okay, you have to have develop some level of empathy. Leadership should be at every level. Sorry, because of time limitations, I'm not going to run through every single slide. When we talk about leaders, please understand there's no point having one strong leader in an organization. You have to have leadership at every level, every different part. And in my case, we operate a very flat structure. So every division, every department, every business unit, every entity within the group, you have to empower leaders at all levels, encourage them to own, their team, their structure, to own and ownership of the problems, ownership of the decisions, and build capacity throughout your system. Also remember that technology is there to serve people, not the other way around. So the idea is should remove repetitive work, improve efficiency, enhance quality, free people for higher value tasks, okay, and preparing people. So this is a key thing. A lot of people fear AI, and honestly, to some extent, even I worry about, as we bring out graduates for the future and we bring out things, which is one of the reasons why we have changed so many things, because I keep telling people, so between employees, staff, what universities are producing, we have changed the way we do things to teaching our graduates, getting them to understand the core concepts and all through their degree, but more to make them lifelong learners, to make them understand fast track skill acquisition, make them be able to become relevant and reinvent themselves. Because no longer are you going to have single career type. I did, medicine and I'm a doctor for 40 years, or an accountant for 40 years, or a lawyer. It changes. So we need to get our people to be able to, like, AI is your friend. So even my HR department, I've now changed it to like human machine department. So we try to see what is done by people and what is done by machines. And we try to allocate that work accordingly. And the machines are there to help the staff. Okay, so leadership also is not about just KPIs, rankings. Yes, it's important to make money, but it's about impact. It's about trust, sustainability, and how are you contributing to society. At the end of the day, you must understand every company, every entity out there should look at itself as a corporate citizen. And as a corporate citizen, what is actually doing to contribute back to the community that it's in. Also, I strongly believe in the triple bottom line, and more companies are starting to look at these things. It's basically people, planet, and profits in that order. So the number one thing is you put your people ahead of everything else. Then you look at your planet, and then you look at your profits. And if you have this, as your DNA, you will find that your profits will in the long run grow, because you show that you care for your people, and they in turn will reward you by making your company grow. So ultimately, it's about the final thing is leadership is about responsibility. You are the custodians of the culture in your organizations. You are the guardians of relevance to make sure your company and your staff play relevant. You are there to develop people. You are the stewards of trust. So these four things. So when we talk about human-centered leadership, it's about this. As a leader, your job is to be the custodians of culture in your place. You have to be a steward of trust to help build trust among your people so that they will want to go on you with that journey, learn how to leverage technology, use it, You have to develop your people. You're developing your people so they will know why it is, how to use technology, how to leverage, how to collaborate with technology, how to work in partnership, with AI, and use that to perform better, to be more productive. But one of the key problems I find is that sometimes companies find if people can use AI and be more productive, they just give them more work and more work. So that's something as a leader you should try to make sure there is some level of balance. The more productivity tools come in, you'd be surprised sometimes the people are still working the same hours, but the reason is suddenly people find more work to do. So you shouldn't be piling on people with more work. You should also be giving them some level of work-life balance. And you're the guardian of relevance to make sure your company stays. And the last thing is human-centered leadership is a strategic necessity. We need to, because humans are the center of everything. Please don't get too excited by AI, automation, technology, cybersecurity. All these are tools there to help humans in our quest for a better life. So technology will keep evolving. Change will keep accelerating. The pace will get faster and faster. And the only thing is uncertainty also will remain there. So it's human-centered leadership that will anchor us in our purpose, our values, our, that whole human element that will create resilience for organizations and ensure that we can continue to grow and continue to exist, or we will just all be kicked out by the next big company that comes in. Okay, so sorry that I spoke very quickly and ran through so many slides, but I was actually planning to do this over 40 minutes and I've done it in 22.
40 minutes below.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Raja. I think
Thank you.
this has really been interesting, looking at the human-centered leadership for digital resilience. And I think without any human factor or without giving consideration for humans first, leaders will not exist either. We're not going to be leaders for machines or for, some tools or something like that. So I think leadership in this era calls for a different approach. And I think over and over again, Raja, in your talk, you have touched a lot on upskilling, lifelong learning, right? And then being relevant as not only an organization, but as a people. So this is how we sort of put this in together and looking at competencies. And most of all, where leadership is concerned, empathy and also looking at decision making, which sometimes, also involves the involvement of the workforce. So I think it has been a very comprehensive approach or comprehensive speech by sharing that you did just now, right?
Yeah. If you have the I think I've shared the slides, you can share it with whoever is here. So in
Yes,
case
of course. So we
want
will
to look
take
at it
some.
more slowly.
Thank you. And for those of you who don't know who Mr. Raja is, he's from the corporate sector. He's also known as a polymath. That's been his speech over and over again, where he talks about why it's so important for us. I think he mentioned something about being a doctor for the next 40 years or being a lawyer. People just revel in that. I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, but the real polymath or the real survivor is someone who knows a little bit about everything, right, Raja?
Yeah, actually, basically, a polymath is someone who's got knowledge in multiple disciplines and hence is able to leverage off different disciplines. And
Yeah,
normally, these are the people who create the massive changes in the world. So, like Elon Musk is a polymath.
absolutely.
Zuckerberg is a polymath. Facebook, Meta, because he's actually a technology and IT person. But when he set up Facebook, he went first to study psychology because he had to know how can I get people hooked on Facebook
Yeah.
to make sure that they will come in and constantly on a daily basis have to hook up. So I'm not saying that's a good thing, but what I'm trying to say is people should realize that they should not be, one discipline type of person or just have one thing. And that interest can be anything. It can be music, it can be dance, it can be art, it can be, languages, anything. Because if you pick up things from outside, you will be able to look at things. So like Musk, for example, SpaceX is on space travel. You've got Tesla, on cars. Then he's also got his boring company and he's got the AI company. So when he looks at all these different aspects, he's able to connect the dots and create new things. So
Absolutely.
we as people shouldn't be afraid of learning new things. And even if they are outside our normal comfort zone, we should look at it that way.
And I think that's good because even in the context of a company, many people would probably say, look, this is not my job. I'm only going to do this. I'm not involved in this. So this is where we actually shortchange ourselves. So I think you mentioned about leaders who involve everyone. So I think this is the way we should move forward. accepting change, and willingness to learn and upskilling. And this goes for both leaders who manage people as well as the current workforce, who should be more adaptable. So thank you, Mr. Raja. We'll come back to you with questions after this. But I want to move to our next speaker. How do you navigate and be vigilant in the cyber age? And for that, I'm going to call upon His Excellency Sok Puthiwood, Secretary of State, Kingdom of Cambodia. And Excellency Sok Puthiwood serves as Secretary of State, Ministry of Posts and Telecommunications, and he's the co-chairman of the Working Group on Rice Sector. If you've been to the ITU events, you would have met Excellency Sok on many, many occasions. And he speaks really well on internet and the power that it unleashes. So these are some interesting things that we've picked up along the way as friends, and understanding how leaders can navigate in this new cyber space age, right? So cyber vigilance is a strategic leadership priority, and we call upon Excellency Sok Puthiwood to present his talk. Excellency Sok, can we have? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Philomena. It's good to see you again.
Great, good to meet you. Yes, Excellency.
Thank you for inviting us to join this event. I'll be speaking a little bit about cyber vigilance and what we're doing here in Cambodia in terms of digital transformation journey, and how this digital era affect how Cambodia approach a digital age. So I apologize. I don't know everybody here, so I'll just say hello. And if there's any questions or anything afterward, feel free to ask. So before I start, I would just, when we say the word digital era or cyberspace, I think everybody would probably picture something different. Whether you're looking at this from a government angle, from the youth angle, from the student, or from general citizens angle. I think a view of the cyberspace or digital space probably a bit different. So maybe I could just kind of paint that picture a little bit before I go deeper in terms of how we could see this, and how Cambodia, from the government perspective, looking at this space. I think on the last meeting in Cambodia that you were here, I used the term to kind of paint a general pictures of what the digital space is, and we compare it to it's like a jungle, and the jungle is safe for those who know how to navigate the jungle, and for most of us, I think it might be less safe if you don't know the digital footprint that you're leaving every time you go into the digital space. So from this perspective, what would government do in terms of trying to protect its digital sovereignty and its citizen, right? So everybody knows the internet. I think it's probably one of the greatest human invention of all time. But there's always, with any good invention, there's always a good side to it and a bad side to it. And from the government perspective, we looked at how could we, ensure that we could bring in the best, the good side of the internet, and for its citizen. And I don't know if most of you know Cambodia. I can't see audience.
Excellency, you have people from everywhere, actually, from Asia Pacific, also from Africa, and quite a lot of leaders who have joined us. Earlier, we had our speaker, Mr. Raja, right, from Malaysia, and he's from the corporate sector. And also another lady, Miss L, also from the corporate sector, as one of the speakers. So yes, go on. You always describe the internet as a jungle and how we have to navigate. I think that's the best analogy I've heard so far. Go on.
Yes, thank you. So Cambodia maybe I'll give a little bit of background of Cambodia, and then you could also relate on where Cambodia is coming from. I think most people, I don't know if you have visited Cambodia before. We're one of the country in Southeast Asia. Have a very long history. I think our country is more than 2,000 years old, have long heritage and culture. And we have one of the world wonders of the world, Angkor Wat Temple. And we've been through a tragic story history. Most people probably know about the killing field, the Pol Pot, the genocide period, which will leave a very deep scar for Cambodia, and most of the educated people were almost wiped out during that era. So Cambodia finished a civil war probably in 1979, but we didn't achieve real peace only in 1998, sorry. So this is when the government managed to bring all the military together under one government and to ensure peace and stability since then till now. Unfortunately, this has been a bit disrupted by a border issue with Thailand, but hopefully we will solve this issue soon. But on top of just the temple issue, but there's also a long history border dispute between the two countries. Just unfortunate that it flare up during this time. I wouldn't imagine that in my lifetime we would see this kind of thing in a border, but unfortunately, yeah, things happen. You could see that globally things are becoming more uncertain. But I hope that we will continue to keep peace and stability in our part of the world, and border issue with Thailand will be resolved soon. So, and also I would hope that our ASEAN community will also pay attention to this issue and help to support both countries to resolve our issue. I think that although it's deep and historic with a lot of history behind this, but I think if you keep the rule of law as the mechanism to solve the problem, I think this could be solved very easily. But anyway, so going back to my presentation, the first slide, we're looking at the leadership shaping the digital era. So, we always ask why any country should join the digital era. Why do we need to go through a digital transformation? There's a saying that things still work. Why change it?
Mhm.
But obviously, things around us change, and I think one of the probably the single big driving change for Cambodia is after our Prime Minister Hun Manet came into office. He has a vision of 2050 to push Cambodia to become a high-income country. So that means we have to be competitive. We have to be able to compete, and we have to be able to use latest tools and push the economy to grow. And to do that, we need to consider all kinds of factors on how best to achieve this goal in 2050. That means average Cambodian income would need to grow from right now 2,000 to around 12,000 in about 2 decades. So that's a lot of pressure on our current government. So what we see, the best way to achieve this is a digital transformation, and what that means is, how do we drive this change and bring digital transformation to Cambodia? So in my first slide, you can see that it's not so much about the technology that is driving this. There are 5 major factors for the leadership to push this change. on top of sharing the vision, we have to have the trust of the people to do the job. We have to have a strong policy, a good policy. We have to have the people to push the policy, and also the technology that support the implementation of this policy. And any one of these component fail, I think, the transition will not be successful. The leadership has to continuously monitor all five of these components. And on top of that, I think we also, from a point of view, this is an opportunity to also reform our government and to push national development. So there's many things that embedded in this initiative. So in the next slides, you could see that why cyber vigilance is a leadership responsibility. You could you could say that being vigilant is important in terms of keeping on top of all the challenges that we face. You could say that today's technology, although very powerful, but if you look under the hood and you look deeper into what are all those technology entails, you could see there are many moving parts, many components, many standards, many solutions, and you have to be able to bring all of this together and make it work. So I mean, nowadays things are maybe on the technology component a bit easier than maybe 10 years ago, but nonetheless, I think there are still many moving parts in terms of bringing technology together. And now with the integration of AI, integration of big data, blockchain, you got many things to think about and to make sure that all these components fits together, and the team who are that you're leading, understand fully how this technology applied on the ground. So back to the vision of 2050 that are set by our Prime Minister. Most of you probably aware that a new cabinet under the Prime Minister's, most of them are around the age or younger than 50. So we are, you could say, more energetic and more open-minded and more aware of what's going on around the world. And I hope that this energy transform and push the development of Cambodia faster. So in this slide, you could see like I mentioned, the components of many technologies that are coming together on top of the human factor, which we have to manage change management within all the organization, the ministry, and provincial government, on top of keeping the trust and delivering result in every milestone that has been set forward. So you could say, being vigilant and on top of things is very important, and make sure that as we're moving forward, the trust from our leadership will continue, because I think this is probably one of the core component in any change, is to maintain the trust from all the stakeholders. So I think in the next slide, you will see how we also make sure that we manage this in a process. So what it means in this slide, we have to anticipate what are the risks that are coming, and also how do we embed the new culture within the team, and also to sustain it. So this has been quite challenging in terms of getting everybody on board, but in the next slide, we can go into the next slide. You will see a little bit. Yeah. So this shows sort of how we keep the all the stakeholders together. Public service exposure. This is another component that in the whole ecosystem. Every time we put in a new services online, this is also a risk that we have to manage. If you there are more than 1,000 or 2,000 services that the government has to put online. So every one of those risk that we have to manage and could potentially be a door for any kind of a cyber threat to come in. So on top of that, we have an emerging technology risk. As technology is always evolving, we could have to also keep up with all the changes as the technology evolves. And like I mentioned, the trust is a major component in terms of ensuring that the government, the leadership, and all the stakeholders continue to trust in the team that are implementing this process. On the next slide, I can go into a little bit about what we have done from the ministry so far. We have our government has put forth a pentagonal strategy, phase 1. So under this strategy, we have a digital economy and society policy framework that recently we have upgraded our pentagonal or rectangular strategy to pentagonal strategy. And the new pillar in the pentagonal strategy is the digital pillar. And then under this policy framework from my ministry, there's actually a lot more policy drafted by other ministry as well. But from my ministry and digital government committee, we have drafted so far the digital government policy. Now being drafted is the national AI strategy and also cyber security law and national data governance. So these policy and law is being put forth by my ministry. On the next page, you could see how this policy and law will be implemented through government governance structures. We have established a National Council for Digital Economy and Society, which is chaired by our Prime Minister. And under this council, we have established 3 committees: the Digital Economy Committee, Digital Government Committee, and Digital Security Committee. So these committees are responsible to implement our pentagonal strategy and ensure the digital transformation as well. So on the next page, governance framework as a leadership tool. Just to show you that through the committee, this is how we coordinate our policy, from our vision to policy frameworks to institutional actions and public confidence. Yep. So next page. Yeah. So leadership shape trust and digital future. So we, as yeah, I mentioned, digital leadership plays a very important role in all of this, and um, you know, through national council and the three committee that I mentioned, leading by a prime minister, the committee has separated the functions in terms of the digital government committee is coordinated by my ministry, and then we got the committee of digital economy and business is coordinated by Ministry of Finance, and we got the Digital Security Committee, which is coordinated also by my ministry. With that, I'd just like to share what I meant earlier by how the government is looking at this jungle. As you could, aware that some country are taking a different approach on how to manage this challenge. Um, if if you look at the certain options on how to deal with this, some country would try to clean up or make the jungle into a garden. But of course, this approach is not so supportive by international community, because every time you touch the internet space, I think the international community doesn't want to see how the government is trying to shape what has been developed in the internet space. So the more freedom and more support on freedom of speech and things like that. I think this is generally the mainstream. So we understand this ideas, but at the same time, I think what we have done in Cambodia is to also discuss in terms of how do we develop in a way that to shape this jungle to be more safe for the kids, for future generations. If I were to ask you, how do you feel about the kids being in the internet these days? I think most parents or most countries or most community have a mixed feeling on this. I know that recently Australia has came up with a law to ban um, children from social media. So I think the approach that they're using is to take the kids away from this space, right? Maybe until they of a certain age, then they could be allowed back in. And Cambodia, we're still thinking of how to navigate this space as well. I'm sure other countries are also looking in different approach. Um, and we have been discussing recently through our Internet Governance Forum, which was held in Cambodia recently, to discuss whether we could help the community help clean up this space in some way, so that the student and the children could have their own space, or create a new space, where we could ensure more safety and more support for kids in terms of how they interact with this space. So there's a number of things that I think on top of after the discussions, we hope to push some pilot to demonstrate how this concept could be applied in Cambodia or in the region, and with the community, with the international community who are supporting this. And we look forward to also share and collaborate and also learn from our members in the region in terms of how you navigate the digital era, digital space in this digital era. So with that, I would like to just share a little bit of what we're doing in Cambodia, and I hope that we could have more discussion later on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. So very interesting, what you just mentioned. The digital future is not something that happens to us. It is something that we shape through deliberate leadership. And I think today's leadership is something that's really challenging because, we're looking at cyberspace, and leaders are not just responsible for the internal stakeholders of their company, but also for the external stakeholders. And in the case of the government, it is trust from the people as well. And the kind of news that's spreading like wildfire, thanks to the onset of the internet and the multi-platforms. I think this is a huge challenge for any government leadership, to be savvy, to know and to look at strategies. You mentioned about your Pentagon structure and, all these new ideas and strategies that need to be in place, right? So thank you. And we're going to come back with more questions after this. So for those of you who have just joined us, actually, we are on, more than 100 odd people on Zoom. I think Zoom only takes 100, but we've got 106 people and more on Facebook as well as YouTube. So this is really interesting, and it's a great way to start the new year as well. Talking about the direction that leaders can take. We had Mr. Raja who spoke about a human-centric approach. I think the human factor is always at the core of it. And this is so more so in a digital ministry where the leader is a human and he has to take approaches that benefit mankind, right? So we're going to move to our third speaker, Ms. El Kwan. And this is the lady who drives Broadcast Asia. For those of you who know Broadcast Asia, it happens in Singapore every year in the month of May. And this is Asia's premier technology festival. And Broadcast Asia, Communicate Asia, AI Summit. And so Elle works closely with business leaders, technologists, policymakers, academicians, and so forth. She also serves as the president of the Asia AI Association and also for the UAE and Philippine chapters, and also vice president of the Asia Pacific Assistive Robotics Association. So a lady with lots of accolades there. We'd like to welcome Ms. El Kwan. Elle,
Thank you so much.
Inviting you to talk on managing workforce. I already see a lot of questions, long questions on the chat group. So, but first tell us more about managing workforce, which is your topic for today. Very interesting one, huh? Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Ms. Philo, and thank you to our first two speakers. Very exciting insights, and I cannot wait to take on the questions from everybody. But yeah, good afternoon, everyone. It's a joy to be here with you all digitally. Thank you to AIBD for having me. Ms. Philo and your team, you've worked hard for this. And like you said, we have over 100 here in Zoom and more in Facebook. So this is really a success. So I'll need help with the slides. So next slides, please. As mentioned, I am the producer of Broadcast Asia. So many of you may know this and perhaps attended and probably started planning to be in Singapore in May. Now, Broadcast Asia is part of a bigger tech festival called Asia Tech X Singapore. And this is jointly organized by Singapore's, next slide, please. Singapore's IMDA, which is the Infocom and Media Development Authority. And so our team also organized other tech events like London Tech Week, Africa Tech Festival, Cannes Lion in France. And for those familiar in cybersecurity, our team also organizes Black Hat and Money 2020, which is in the fintech space. So you can see on the slide, we actually had Ms. Philo in our event last year. And so this presentation, though it's broadly titled Managing the Workforce, I'd like to expand it even further by sharing my thoughts on managing teams, tasks, and our performance in a time of constant change. I'm sure we've all heard of this term called VUCA in the past. So VUCA world, we've been throwing that around. It's volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, which is true. But last year, Forbes actually came up with another snappy acronym called BANI. Anybody heard of BANI? So BANI stands for brittle. Yes, thank you. So brittle, anxious, nonlinear, and incomprehensible. So in my mind, all of those are true, but we are not going to dissect this today because I want to share real practical insights that we can all relate with. And I think this is a good tie-in to Minister His Excellency Sok's presentation as he likens the digital world to the jungle. And, it's safe if you know how to navigate. Now, the question I ask myself when he mentioned that, and I'm sure many of us are probably asking silently, is, are we ready to navigate so that we don't get eaten by wild animals or fall in pits in this digital jungle? So next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, in the tech event world that I move in, I've spoken to and heard from many businesses and industry leaders in telco, media, finance, enterprise. And one common sentiment is always present. And we often speak as if change is something we are going through. There's digital transformation, new platforms, new skills, new risks. But this is no longer accurate. For most of us today, change is not a phase. Change is our current operating condition. And skills expire faster than they can be upgraded. Expectations from stakeholders keep rising. Yet people are still expected to perform, to deliver, and stay committed while the ground beneath us keeps shifting. In this kind of environment, the central challenge is no longer about adapting tools. I always say there's an abundance of tools. And I think what is important is how responsibly we exercise using these tools. As Mr. Raja, our first speaker, mentioned, we need to steward these tools and be guardian of relevance. There's a new concept now called AI slop. I don't know if you've heard of this, but this is when you have low quality, high volume, often nonsensical content generated by AI. And this AI slop has started to flood not only our personal social media, but also teams, corporate teams, companies. So this is something that we need to watch out and plan for. Now, for a long time, work in media and technology followed stable patterns. But today, again, the shift is that we have distributed teams. We have hybrid and remote arrangement. And then we have shorter planning cycles. And decisions need to be made with incomplete information. So through my work as a producer at Broadcast Asia and Asia Tech X Singapore, we engage organizations across the region, and we've seen a pattern. People, that's you and I, are trying to do the right work without being fully sure what the right work now is. So don't get me wrong, authority still exists in organizations as they should. Titles still matter, of course. Structures are still necessary, but authority alone no longer creates confidence. In fast-moving environments, authority without direction creates hesitation, and hesitation over time turns into anxiety. So what people need most today is not control, but clear direction under changing conditions. So for leaders, for team managers, this means deciding what truly matters now, what can wait, and what should no longer be pursued. And this is where leadership and managing becomes meaningful. It is not just about visibility or charisma alone, but as responsibly exercising judgment with intention. Next slide, please. So one uncomfortable truth we face right now is that decisions need to be made faster. Now, judgment becomes more important than information. Information is abundant and tools are powerful. And every day you have new tools, you have new AI applications that you read about. So that is not the issue or the challenge now. Speed is rewarded, but next slide, please. So speed without judgment amplifies mistake. And this is why wisdom matters more under pressure. Now, wisdom is not just intelligence, it's not just experience, it's a discernment that humans and humans alone can apply and use it favorably to their advantage. And I just want to go back to Mr. Raja's point that it's human-centered leadership. It cannot be about tools and machines only. It's our human ability to choose what leads to stability and good outcomes for people and teams. Something I've learned over time is that most people are willing to adapt. The problem is often not change itself, but prolonged ambiguity about expectations and priorities. Next slide, please. So when expectations are unclear, people tend to overwork, they avoid risk, and they disengage. So as leaders and managers, engagement improves when outcomes are clear, decisions are predictable, and signals are constant. And this becomes even more important when teams are distributed across regions. In Asia, for example, cultural context matters. Now, if you have teams from different parts of the world, you have to be culturally sensitive. Sometimes silence can mean respect, but sometimes it's disagreement. So we understand this. Directness can either feel efficient in one culture or unsafe in another. So assumptions that work in one market often fail quietly in another. This is something that distributed teams, hybrid teams, remote teams also need to understand. Next slide, please. So in working with teams spread across different parts of the world, like in Broadcast Asia, our core base in Singapore, but some of the things we practice include, and this is very practical sharing I have for you. We have written directions rather than implied expectations. So put everything in writing. It keeps everybody safe. There should be consistently in alignments between teams, smaller teams, and the wider teams, because this builds trust faster. And then we should respect time zones and local context, as a form of respect for people. So global teams do not fail because of distance. They fail because meaning and purpose is not shared clearly enough. Next slide, please. One phrase we've all been hearing about, and it's too much for me. You hear it in boardrooms, you hear it in your social media feed, in town halls, in events, and it's here in this webinar. And this is AI. For many, it's already part of how work gets done. And I have the privilege of learning from the AI ecosystem through my involvement with the Asia AI Association. And I've seen how organizations are experimenting with AI across functions, from operations to content to planning. Now, AI is powerful. There are some functions that it can really help with in drafting, in summarizing, supporting preparation, and reducing repetitive work. But for me, I think the biggest mistake organizations make now is adding AI on top of poorly designed work. So when workflows are unclear, AI accelerates confusion. So the right sequence matters for leaders and managers. You have to take note of some, again, very practical points. You have to clarify the outcomes you want, and then redesign work. And then you apply the tools. AI should reduce human burden. It should not increase pressure. And AI should support judgment, not replace it. Now, I'd like to touch very briefly on cybersecurity, as this is something very important and it becomes everyone's responsibility. Most risks actually begin with human behavior, not even the advanced attacks. So there has to be foundational awareness of cybersecurity on a personal level, on a team level, on a company level. Then the right structures should be built around it. And please allow me to just give you one practical example I can think of right now. And it's actually a Cambodia-based verification project using blockchain to support content integrity. We've heard about this last year. It was presented at ATX. And this is a testament to how fast Cambodia is moving towards advancement. And so I'd like to just briefly congratulate and thank you for your leadership, His Excellency Sok. And so back to corporate, enterprise, business level, the lesson is simple. Trust must be designed into systems, whether this is a team, whether it's a company, or an entire country. Okay, finally, let me talk about upskilling. And our first speaker, Mr. Raja, did mention a lot about this. And upskilling is a word that's been thrown around. But one observation I have is that organizations usually lose people in this topic without realizing it. Why? Because even if upskilling sounds positive for many employees, it may not feel that way. What they hear may be, it's not even we're investing in new. What they can hear is you might not be enough anymore. So there is a gap between intention and perception, and that's where fear creeps in. So as managers, as leaders, this is something we need to manage and tackle very sensitively. It depends on your team. It depends on your employee personalities. Because when learning feels like a test, people will behave defensively. So they comply instead of experimenting. And it's not because they don't want to grow, it's because the environment doesn't feel safe. I believe what works better is when learning is anchored to real work and real outcomes, not future hype. The good thing is there are several forward-thinking learning models, which I'm sure Mr. Raja is familiar with, as he comes from this space. I'm excited. I'm personally interested in relearning and leveraging tech tools for this. So next slide, please. Don't worry, I'll be wrapping up and it would be Q&A time. So as I wrap up, I actually look forward to hearing some of your questions and comments in the chat. But to emphasize, number one, change will not slow down. Technology will not wait. So skills will keep shifting, whether you are ready or not. The real question is not whether your team will face disruption, because you definitely will. The question is, what kind of environment people experience while the disruption is happening? Do they experience noise or direction? Is it reaction or responsibility? When people are given steady direction, they move with confidence. And when direction is absent, even the best tools and the best strategies will not help. So this moment does not call for louder voices or faster decision. It calls for people willing to decide what matters now, to remove what does not, and to guide others with judgment and restraint. Unfortunately, a 2-hour webinar like this cannot solve all of our problems or answer all of our questions. You know, leadership, tech, and disruption are ongoing conversations. But it's great that we have AIBD who have initiatives like this where conversations can happen. And please allow me to do a shameless plug at this point. I will invite you to continue these conversations at Broadcast Asia in Singapore this coming May. And when you're there, please say hello to me. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And over to you, Ms. Philo.
Thank you. Thank you, Al. Very well said. And of course, I'm sure everyone would love to go to Broadcast Asia after what you just said, right? It's a lot of new things to look forward to. TAC meets content. But most of all, it's your sharing about a people-centered, management, and then looking at words like upskilling or relearning or reskilling. All these are words, but looking at how this could actually also have an impact on people. And also touched on cross-cultural, right? So when we talk about workforce, today everyone is so global. We're looking at a very global community. You have people working remotely. And I remember reading once that remote groups, remote teams, sometimes when you're working remotely, you feel that you're not a part of the team, and that has its own psychological impact, this closeness of teams and so forth. So there's a lot of things to digest today. And one of the clear things that came out was, humans always have this ability to discern, which I don't think machines can do yet, at least not yet. And then, of course, looking at directions, it is the human mind and the ability to set directions, understand people, this empathy, this word also came up a lot in our talk today, and how we navigate through different situations. So I think leadership is an ongoing process. And I see lots of questions on the Zoom, on your chat group, right? So some of these are very specific questions on salaries and so forth, or type of jobs. That might depend a different kind of that needs a different kind of approach. But first, let's look at all our speakers for today. Mr. Raja, are you still there? Mr. Rajasekharan, sorry.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Yes, Mr. Rajasingham, and also Excellency Sok. So is there anything that, as leaders, right? Raja focused on a human-centric leadership. And Excellency Sok spoke about how we need to know how to navigate the jungle out there and ensure that you need to protect your stakeholders, your internal, external stakeholders, the context of the government. How do you do it? And Al also touched on similar angle of how you're dealing with different cultures, different communities, dealing with AI and changes. Of course, something that we cannot escape from. So, any questions from our listeners out here or the audience out here? And that's one from Miss Nosy. I don't know whether Raja or Excellency or Al wants to take this, right? So it's from RTM. Norzi, how should leaders make ethical decisions when using AI in organizational processes? That's a very big question, actually.
How?
But yes, that's the last question. Yes.
Anyone?
Okay,
Yeah.
Raja, maybe
Okay.
you first.
I'll
Yes.
I'll go. Okay, I think the key thing to look at it is not to sort of say how to make ethical choices in AI related areas, because I think ethics is ethics. So your
Yes.
value systems must be in place. As I said, so whatever values you have, whether it's integrity, professionalism, the empathy, whatever, all those are the values that should be ingrained in your organization. Now, whether it's in your day-to-day dealings, whether it's in a particular instance, whether it's AI or technology, those same values would apply. So you should ask yourself, what are our values? And those values apply regardless of whether it's in an AI context or whatever context. So, for example, if what you're doing is breaching copyright, or you're stealing somebody else's work and passing off as your own or whatever, that's something that you wouldn't do because of your integrity within your value system. So my answer is we cannot be, of course, when you're doing a lot of things with AI, you might say, like today, a person could say, I want to write a song like Ed Sheeran would, like his kind of lyrics, his kind of voice, create an AI artist, and then release that song. So you're doing so many things that are wrong when you do that, but you're doing it wrong. So just because it's AI, it shouldn't make your values any different. I mean, that's my take on it.
I can
Raja, I
add.
think this is really interesting. There's no clear answer. And the question is like really, really different. So Norzi, let's just see where we can move. Yes, Al, you had something to share with us?
So I'll just totally agree, Mr. Raja. And I think it was you who mentioned earlier about culture. So the culture of a company would be a good starting point. So if your culture is chaotic, you cannot expect AI to solve it for you. So yes, and I think one other way is that because AI governance is an ongoing thing, perhaps as a company, as a team, as an organization, you can look at the tools you are considering to use, and then within the context of your industry, within the context of your business, you can then put guardrails around it. Again, there is no fixed answer. Not one answer or statement can be the right one, because it depends on the industry, it depends on your use, it depends on your tools. So I think look at the guardrails that are possible for you to set at the beginning, so that the next series of decisions will move in the side of ethical.
Okay, thank you, Al. So are there any questions from our audience today? We have people from different countries.
Philo,
Yeah?
sorry,
Yes.
there's some question that is on the chat
Mm-hmm.
from Cambodia.
Okay.
It says, good afternoon. You shared in one of your slides there should be a balance, leadership being, lens, people, planet, and profit. However, in reality, it's always profit, profit, profit. How can, so I think there is this thing, traditionally it was all about, how do I bring value to the shareholders? It's shareholder value. It's about getting more profits, increasing the market cap of the firm. But over time, people have realized consumers are becoming more educated, especially the Gen Zs and the next generation. They are more concerned, and there is a bit of a shift. So there will still be small, businesses that look at it. But I always say, we put your people first, and by people, no, I'm talking about three groups: your employees, those who work for you, your customers, and the
Yes.
community. And if you put these three groups first, the profits will come. Because ultimately, if you look after, profits don't come just because you think, I want to make money, and let's see how can I make money. Ultimately, every company that's out there is in the business of providing a service or a product. So whether it's Disney or whether it's Tesla, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's this, people don't buy from you because they want you to make a profit. People buy from you because the value that they perceive that they're getting from dealing with you. So ultimately, if you put people at the center of your business, and as people are becoming more and more planet conscious, of course, now, with America, a slightly different take on things, but we'll not go there. But with that side of it, I'm actually seeing, as we are moving slowly, a more educated group of people who want to deal with companies that fit within their framework of what a good corporate citizen is like. So it might take some time because leaders in different organizations are different, and some are stuck with the older mindset. But there is definitely a shift in where things are heading, and this shift will become more and more apparent in the years to come. So you could either join that now, and that's why you'll see tons of companies like Google doing a lot of good work in the background, in terms of working with social good entities, and they do it because they know at the end of the day, these things will matter. So, I mean, I can't talk about the particular leaders you have in your organization, but maybe sometimes getting them some good reading material and sharing it, of course, without them getting annoyed with you, might be a good
Yes.
start
Yeah.
to show where the shift is. And the other thing is, how can we start as a catalyst to change when change is inevitable but isn't accepted?
One, two,
Okay.
three, four.
So how do you become a catalyst? Thank you, Raja. I think that was very good explanation, because, I remember, working through different periods. It's profit, profit, profit. Then here comes ethics. Then now a new thing that's like, digital age, and everyone is like just going crazy over AI. I think Al mentioned that if you talk to any leader, it's like, okay, what do I do now? Am I even fit for this job? So, even they ask these questions. And the next person that they would look at is the employees. Okay, my employees need to be actually able to do this. So there's a lot of confusion, even with leaders at the top who are still determining the direction that they should take to create success. But you said it very nicely, so you got to be focusing on your people, and that's the element, right? And then the rest would actually fall into place. Yeah.
I mean, Richard Branson, all of these people put it this way: look after your people, and they will look after you.
So it's still,
it's
a good.
Not a profit first approach; it's a people first. But you will get to the profits if your people understand why they are why you're in that business, why you do what you do, who you're serving, and what your outcome is. You will get there. But if you start with the money first, I even do this with my graduates. A lot of time I have students, and when I do my business talk, people call and say, they'll put up a hand and say, I want to ask you, what field should I go into? I hear fintech is a good area to go in. I said, do you know anything about fintech? No, but I heard there's a lot of money that I can make there. But this is the key problem. People want to chase the money rather than what they really want to do. And if you do that, you won't have that purpose, you won't have that passion. And the moment something gets difficult, you will drop it and run away.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. But looking at workforce, right, especially when you look at the new generation that's coming up, which is also very much into money, so they tend to go into lucrative areas where, okay, how much am I going to get paid? Now, if you are doing an interview with lots of people these days, the first question would probably be, okay, how much am I going to make in this company? Or if somebody's paying you just 50 ringgit, $50 more, $100 more, they might just scoot. So this profit thing is not just with companies or leaders, it could also be with the current workforce, the new generation of people. This is also something that's quite prominent. I would ask this question to Excellency Sok, looking at, what's your perception on this? Profit versus people, of course, I go with the people, but you also have, yeah.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. But I just want to add that, in the past, it has been very challenging, when you bring technology and solution, and some of the key technologies are dominant by few players, right? But I think today it's changed, so when you talk about technology, when you talk about certain solution, there are more players that you will not be dependent or monopolized by any particular group or solution. So I think this allows you to have more option. Recently I come across this idea called digital public infrastructure, digital public good. So these are concepts that allow you to sort of define where the private sector should be, where the government should be, and what are the key technologies that should be in the public, that serve the public interest, that government needs to give priority to. For example, citizen data, financial fintech, financial platform, or a data exchange platform. All of these allows you to create an ecosystem where all the private sectors can fairly compete. Right, the government could be to make sure could be the entity that makes sure everybody compete fairly in this ecosystem. So these are the kind of concept that I think will keep you clear on what your roles are. Yeah, and I think in the past it has been challenging. It's not that people don't know, but I think technology are not widely available like there is today. Today with open source, I think no one has monopoly over certain technology, but I mean there are still some technology that are quite dominant by a few companies, but I think that more less and less in the future.
Listen. Okay, so this is really, really interesting take from you, Sok, Excellency Sok. And yes, Raja, you wanted to share something to that earlier question. I think we have more and more questions coming in, but we're running short of time.
Okay.
So Raja, any observations before we?
No, I think the other question was.
Yeah, some very big questions are here.
Okay, you just shoot, because I think we've handled the other questions earlier, so you just shoot. Feel.
All right. So perhaps what we also look at is we have two, people one from Brunei and also Miss Ugonma from Nigeria. Madam Lim from Brunei, you have a question or you're sharing as a leader. Do you want to share with us your thoughts on, what we just spoke today? Madam Lim, Miss Lim?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your opportunity to share my thought. I just want to share my thought and experience on this leadership in the digital era. As a perspective of a head of research and development at Radio Television Brunei, as we know that digital transformation actually changed the way we work. And how we serve our audience. In RTB, this change is something that we experience daily. So it's not as a future plan, but it's a present reality. So example at RTB, we have a digital transformation like often associated with the platform like our apps, RTB Go, social media, online news distribution. But from the leadership perspective, I learned that this transformation is not really about platform, but it's how people think and work. Example, like when we have this RTB Go, the apps that we have at RTB, RTB Go was introduced. The challenge is not only at the technical perspective, but the bigger question is how do we shift this traditional broadcasting mindset to a digital first audience mindset? And how we ensure our content remain relevant across the televisions, radio, and digital platform. So we as a leader, I think we have to guide our team through this change, like helping them to understand that digital platform are not competitions, but a traditional broadcasting. But as no, I mean is not a competition to traditional broadcasting, but an extension to our public service missions. So in our R&D at RTB, our role is to provide like a evidence-based insight, like the audience rating, survey, focus group findings. And example like we have this audience research showing that changings of viewing habits, especially younger audience, who prefer on-demand and mobile content, or digital analytical highlight with which program perform well on the RTB Go websites or compared to the linear TV. So from here, we actually translate the data to a practical recommendation to improve this. And then, so we also, as a leader, we actually encourage more discussions, more trust instead of just instruct them how to do it.
Okay, so Muslim, it's not instructional, but it's directional, it's involvement, it's engagement, it's also looking at data, but data to assist and not data to make a decision.
Yeah.
I think these are some of the things that inevitably you've shared with us on what's happening in RTB and the change towards digital, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, madam. And we also have Ms. Ugonma Koki from Voice of Nigeria. Ugonma, are you there? Thank you so much for joining us. So Ugonma, what do you see as your biggest challenge, being a leader in this digital age? Ugonma?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much, Philo. What I'd like to say is, has been mentioned, we need to do a lot about the people. It's not just about the technology. And then we need to build trust with the people as leaders. And sometimes, or most of the time, attitude is important, whether attitude of the leader or attitude of the people. Because even with the technology, if the attitude is wrong, technology will also not be properly utilized.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the issue of leaders who are not digital natives. We're migrants. And so if you're a leader and you're a migrant, you need to also read up things. You need to also try to play around with some of these technologies, because the people you also lead are also watching. So like she just said, it's not just a matter of instructions. It has to be practical. So when they see you use some of these technologies, they see you manipulate some of these technologies, It makes it interesting for them knowing that you're not a digital native, you're a migrant. Because some of us leaders are migrants. So if we don't relate with the Gen Zs in using this technology or making them see that we also can use them, sometimes it becomes a problem. It's like you asking me to do what you can't do. So sometimes it's important for us as leaders to be practical in using some of these things. We need to learn a bit of it or read up a bit of it. Even if we don't know the practicals, we should know the theory so that at least we can direct people on how to use it and what it's needed for and all of those explanations. When we do that, we are able to encourage the people. And like we said, leadership should be leadership with human face. It's not just like we said, profit, profit, profit. We should allow people relate with us as leaders in the way they should. But I have a question that I would want answered. And we're talking about all of these technologies. We're looking at the ideal. What do you do in a situation where these technologies are supposed to be used, but they are not available, and you have people who have, because you have talked to them about personal development, they've developed themselves, and these technologies are not there for them to use. What do they do to ensure that your programming and your broadcast goes well?
Okay, thank you, Ugonma. Good take from you. Anybody would like to take that question? Ugonma is from Voice of Nigeria. Thank you, Ugonma. Mr. Raja?
Al, you want to give it a go first? Or?
Actually, may I clarify? When you say the tools are not available, they exist but not available for a time? Or because one of the benefits we have right now is that most of the tools are easily accessible for a very small price, actually. So may I clarify the question, please?
Ugonma, your question was?
Yes. Some of this technology, we're looking at AI, yes. Sometimes they are accessible, but where if in your place of work, if they are not available for you to use in your broadcast, for instance, what happens? You have an idea of how the technology works, you have developed capacity for it, but then between, yes.
Okay. So I suppose this is really a question of management priorities. Yeah. And it has happened. It's true. Because the tools are available, many of individuals upgrade themselves and learn how to use the tools. Now, whether or not they are available or accepted by the company is a different conversation, I believe. And this is an ongoing conversation because, like you said, not many of the leaders are digital natives. So they have to understand the benefit. And that's why we have events like this, we have platforms like this, where conversations should happen, where the leaders should understand it is not a matter of when you should adapt. You should have adapted, months ago. It's a matter of how do you do it. So I guess my advice really is to have a conversation with the decision makers and make them understand that these tools are being used by competitors, by other industries, and they're all benefiting. So now these are tools that will help you or help the team, help the staff to do better, to do faster. And you know what? Sometimes it really becomes even cheaper. So I guess that's what I can suggest and advise on.
Thank you.
I can share a little bit from my experience.
Yes, Excellency.
You're not gonna always have all the tools you need when you start your journey to at the national level or whatever project you're doing to do digital transformation. You just need to improvise. I mean, now, like I mentioned, there's so many tools. So sometimes it's not just about the tools, but it's also about your team who understand those tools. And most of the time, yeah, like from our situation, we never get everything we needed when we start. We have to improvise. And what's worse is now they expect you to. I could give you a sort of picture. Like they ask you to perform an operation without all the tools, So before you start, you have to figure out, what tools you need, right? So then this is one challenge. And another challenge, in this room, it's not everybody is yelling at you, so you might have a different boss or different organization that are overlooking you, and they're all saying different things, and they expect you to perform this successfully with limited tools, resources. And even worse, I think sometimes somebody's shaking the table, right? So these are the environment most of the time that you might have to operate under, and I think ultimately it boils down to your confidence and the team to say, okay, whatever challenge ahead of you, you'll figure out a way to solve it.
Okay. Thank you, Excellency. So I think, based on what Oganma said, you have leaders who are very, very tech savvy, and then you have leaders, all of us were still learning. AI is just another tool. We don't know what would replace AI in a bit. Maybe, some new thing that's going to come up. But one of the things that all leaders have to really look at is being open, learning the new technologies that come up, understanding how people work as well. So it's a big juggle, isn't it? Raja, I just have one question for you. What happened to the era of very charismatic leaders? Of all of you, right? I'm sure you're familiar with the times when you say, oh, he's a great charismatic leader. Does this even apply now?
I think they are still charismatic leaders, but at the end of the day, I mean, those are your people. I mean, your Steve Jobs and Gates and whatever. But I think today we have got a different batch of leaders. You still have, the Google CEOs and others who are there. Tim Cook at Apple, and I mean, different. I mean, they all do. But the question ultimately is the so-called messiah charismatic type leader who takes a company. But that's how, I mean, companies get their people on a mission, a purpose, drive them, take them somewhere. And I think that is still there, but not every company has, because people are different. So different people have different leadership styles. Not everyone is going to be out there being the next, Disney had great leaders at different points in time. So I think we can't just, it's not just a charisma side of thing. I mean, there are people who are charismatic, there are others who are not, they get the job done. So to me, charismatic people sometimes have the ability to get people to go on the journey with them. I
Yes.
remember like Jobs, when he got the CEO of Coke to come and join him, he actually told him, "Do you want to continue making sugar water, or do you want to come change the world?" As a means to sort of hire him and get him on board. Coke does a lot of great things anyway. They're not just selling Coke; they're the largest drink company in the world with even water and other aspects. So many people don't know what they do in the background. But to me, I think the question is we have to realize that leader is not just that one guy. Companies have multiple leaders across different departments, divisions, and it's actually when all these leaders get together, because many people won't have that connection with the number one person. You've got 40,000 people working in a company. Not all of them are going to have interactions. They may see some video, they may hear a speech. So you really need distributed leadership across the organization. Of course, that main leader has to get his key people and get them on board. But I think today, I think the key thing I take from whatever it is today is that humans are at the center of everything. The technology is there to assist them. There are organizations who are going to be slower because their leaders are not as tech savvy. They are, and this thing about the things about companies, because not all companies have sometimes the money to invest in their software. And of course, employees could be using free versions. They can use a free version, a trial version, and then play with it and learn. And then when they come to the office has to make sure they use a paid version. Otherwise, they're going to run into problems for using, gone are in the old days, everybody having pirated software and all sorts of nonsense. So they have to use a paid version. And then they would have to assess, as Ella put it very well just now, as Ella put it very well, is that they have to assess the value that this investment will bring in terms of dollars. Do they have the money? Will it actually be used? Is it just one person using their tool in the office, or does everybody know how to use it, and will it increase the benefit? So I think that's ultimately for them. It's going to be a dollars and cents decision, and convincing them, which she very clearly pointed out. But I will tell you one thing, a key problem. I invest a lot in technology, and I'm one of those who just, we buy this, we buy that. But today they'll come and tell me, invest in this tool. And a week later, they'll come and tell me, actually, the one we bought, there's a better one now. And this is actually better. But they already signed a 1-year contract on the other one. So we are bound to pay, say, 50,000 US dollars or whatever for that. And I'll tell them. So now I just tell them, go and look at 50, 60 tools, come back, not with the first or second tool that you saw. I know these guys, you say it's fantastic. Do a proper due diligence, because I have so many cases. And these companies, once you have bought the tool, you're stuck with a 12-month contract. Even if you use 2 months, you're going to have to pay for the 10. You see,
Absolutely.
so that's where companies, so leaders also have to be mindful, because I think during the pandemic, I think about 60 different softwares. We had virtual gyms for the guys to use, virtual walking platforms. We had everything online in terms of when they clocked in and out. We could monitor. There were lots of things that we did because we wanted to replicate the entire campus experience off campus. So anything that was out there that was interesting, we took, and we did, and we played with it, and it was, we managed to try and replicate. But at the same time, it's a lot of expense. And then we played with it at the end of that 1-2 years. We then said, well, this is good. We'll keep this. They're going out. But
Absolutely.
so, yeah. So you have to, I think people have to be mindful. You can't tell your bosses, get me, your leader, get me this, get me that, get me this. You
Don't
have to
be
do
on
your
a,
homework. Yeah.
so in other words,
Yeah.
yeah, don't be on a tech spree.
Yeah.
Yeah, a tech shopping spree or something like that.
Ah,
So I think this happens, because sometimes this happens with many radio TV stations where they buy a new equipment, and the next thing, someone else comes up with something, and it's a big burden that sits in your office, a white elephant. So these are things that happen when we get, overexcited about getting the latest and the best. So Elle, I think you're in that business, and you're seeing it every year, yeah, new things that come into Tech Asia.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. Can I just share some and from my side? So these are stories I also hear about. Again, I cannot share which companies, but Mr. Raja, thank you for sharing that, because not all companies, not all leaders invest, and which is why the question earlier, right? Like, if the person has invested in upgrading, how do you get the company to adopt? So I've also come across it's a Fortune 500 company. And at the beginning of this AI hype, what they did is they bought the tools, they gave it to the employees, and they said, play with it. They did not do any, like, I expect you to do X, Y, Z. No, they just asked the employees, play with it, learn it. And that happened before them asking for anything. So I think there are different approaches. And again, it's a journey that everybody needs to walk on. But I think that learning about the tools, knowing how to apply them is very critical.
Thank you, Elle. And Excellency Sok, I think you're sitting in the brink of, change for the digital journey of Cambodia, right? And I've been personally to your office and look at how, this is being applied in education through the educational broadcast that you have in Cambodia through your organization. So really, what's it like, spearheading the digital transformation of your country? Personally, what kind of journey is it for you?
Wow, it's been challenging. Like I mentioned to you earlier about the picture. You're asked to, as a doctor, you're asked to operate, but they don't give you all the tools. And on top of that, the room is very noisy. Nobody listened to you particularly, and all things. And also at the same time, somebody's shaking the table, and you can't do your job, right? So these are environments that I think you have to expect anywhere in the world. And you have to continue to build to work through it, especially building up a good team, right? Because like you mentioned, former speakers mentioned earlier, you're not gonna do things by yourself. Everything requires teamwork, requires collaboration, and requires more coordination with government entity, with developing partners, with experts who really genuinely understand the sectors and share everything about the technology, about how other countries doing it. So these are important. I mean, when we started on our journey, to push the digital transformation, especially on the digital government side, we have to find a starting point. Like on the policy level, everything looks nice. The paper, we got all the development partners and everybody, go through the paper. But in the end, when we push things on the ground, that's where the rubber hit the road. And then you have to figure out, wow, you don't have this, you don't have that, and you don't have this resources or the expertise. And these, you have to find ways to bring them, whichever way that you could bring to your team, through you pushing, through all the networks that you have, and then building that ecosystem and also keeping, that vision consistently, because as you move forward, things always change. And if you don't share all this vision to all your team carefully, they're going to go off track, and then you're going to have to try to pull them back, or find a way why that happened. Right. So this is ongoing, but I think we learned a lot through our past experience, and education was one of our priorities. So when we pushed the policy, we said we need a pilot to show what we really mean on paper, and how do we transform from what on paper to actually things on the ground. So we formed a small working group. So rather than working through 30 ministries, we worked through 4: Ministry of Education, Ministry of Information, Ministry of Finance, and then my ministry. So through this group, we managed to push a lot of
Changes.
a lot of things on the ground with the online learning platform with the Ministry of Education. So it's been an exciting journey. I think this year we will scale up the project.
Fantastic. I know that this is something that is your mandate, and reaching out to the entire Cambodia, especially this was a big thing during the pandemic era, and how it has moved on to, to every level of society right now. So I want to thank my panelists for today, Mr. Rajasingham. He calls himself Chief Future Officer. You can ask him more later, maybe whenever you meet him. And also to Miss L. Kwan, she's leading Tech Asia. And of course, Excellency Sok Putiwut from the Ministry of Posts and Telecommunications, Kingdom of Cambodia. And to all of you who have been joining us from YouTube, Facebook, and also on our Zoom, which is now, we just upgraded it to more than 100. So thank you for staying with us for the last couple of hours, and it's really been interesting. There's no answer for everything that you've asked on Zoom, but everything is interlinked. So thank you for joining us on AIBD Zoom's Power Webinars, and we have more coming up this year. Word of thank you also to my team, Noria or 99, who has put this together, and the rest of the AIBD team. So to all of you who have joined us, thank you. Have a great evening, and thank you to the panelists. Can we have a photo session just for our record? All of you can just switch on your cameras. Thank you.
Yes, may I request everyone to turn on your camera? Yes, we are going to have a group photo on 5 different pages. So please,
Okay.
Ravi, can you please start from page 3 and 4? Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Shall we start? 1, 2, 3. Again. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Yes. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
But before we log out, I have a small announcement, because we have several upcoming webinars and programs that may also interest you. So please see the registration links in the chat box. I put 3 registration links. On 3rd February, we have a webinar on next generation broadcasting. You can find the link. And on February 11th, we have a webinar on Asia Pacific Technical Cooperation Initiative. And on February 12th, we have a Radio Web Summit commemorating World Radio Day 2026. All 3 links are in the chat box, and please kindly see the links. I would like to thank Ms. Philo and our 3 exceptional speakers for sharing your expertise very generously. I also would like to thank my colleagues who helped organize today's webinar. And most importantly, thank you to all of you, our participants, for our commitment to excellence in broadcasting. Please stay safe and stay connected until we meet again in February. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Have a lovely week ahead.
Bye.
See you
Thank
and
you.
to the
See you.
panelists.
Bye.
Thank you very much,
Bye-bye.
Excellencies. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.